and made us better creatures. Oh Allah, we shamed ourselves, we strayed from Al-Mu'allim. Surely we wronged ourselves, what will we say in front of it? Mu'allim, he was Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Muhammad
الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون. نحن أولياؤكم في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة، ولكم فيها ما تشتهي أنفسكم ولكم فيها ما تدعون. ولكم فيها ما تشتهي أنفسكم ولكم فيها ما تدعون. ولكم فيها ما تشتهي ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين ولا تستوي الحسنة ولا السيئة ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم وما يلقاها إلا الذين صبروا وما يلقاها إلا ذو حظ عظيم صدق الله العظيم. إن شاء الله نبقى في قصيدة في 3 دقائق إن شاء الله. لي فيك يا أرض الحجاز حبيب لي فيك يا مدينة حبيب لي فيك يا يثرب حبيب لي فيك يا مدينة حبيب نور العيون وللقلوب طبيب في الأرض محمد وفي السماء محمود عند الإله عند الإله مقرب محبوب صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله على محمد لي فيك يا مدينة حبيب نور العيون وللقلوب طبيب في الأرض محمد وفي السماء محمود عند الإله مقرب محبوب صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. النبي صلوا عليه. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكرا. Thank you very much.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I greet all of you with the beautiful greetings of Islam. May Allah bless all of you. On behalf of the Center for Islamic Studies, I welcome all of you this evening to this lecture titled My Journey to Islam from the Vatican to Al-Azhar by Brother Idrees Tawfiq. As you are aware, Center for Islamic Studies, which was established nearly 26 years ago, is one of the leading Muslim organizations in Sri Lanka and has been involved in multifaceted activities with the prime objective of enlightening people on the message of Islam and in furthering religious and secular education, social welfare and Islamic culture. Since its inception, CIS has afforded Sri Lankans the opportunity to listen to eminent Muslim scholars from various parts of the globe. Tonight, we are fortunate to have in our midst a former Catholic priest who spent 5 years in the Vatican to talk to us about his path to enlightenment. Brother Idrees Tawfiq has a degree in English language and literature from the University of Manchester, United Kingdom, and a degree in sacred theology from the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas, Rome. Brother Idrees Tawfiq is much in demand as a speaker and travels extensively to various parts of the world, spreading the noble message of Islam. His style of speaking is both simple and very gentle, touching hearts as well as causing people to think. He is also a prolific writer on Islam and has authored many books and articles. Gardens of Delight, Talking to Young Muslims, Talking to New Muslims are among some of his well-known publications. After listening to some of the verses of the Holy Quran, combined with other personal experiences, Brother Tawfiq finally declared the Shahada at the hands of another great revered, namely Yusuf Islam, the well-known pop singer Cat Stevens. Brother Idrees firmly believes that the best and the fastest way of acquainting the world with the true image of Islam is to set a good example in real life. I enjoyed being a priest for some years. However, deep inside, I was not happy. I felt that there was something not right. Fortunately, and it is God's will, some events and coincidences in my life led me to Islam, declared Brother Idrees Tawfiq at a recent lecture in Cairo, Egypt. Now I call upon Brother Idrees Tawfiq to talk to you.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most compassionate, all praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon His final messenger Muhammad, and may the peace and the blessings and the mercy of God Almighty be upon each one who is present here this evening. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, my dear friends, I start by saying how humbled and honored I am. Do you know, I'll be truthful with you. I say, before every talk, I say to myself, Idrees, why would anyone want to invite you to come all the way from Cairo to Sri Lanka to talk to them about Islam? I honestly say that to myself. You know, I'm going to Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday. I say to myself, why would they want to listen to you talk about Islam? I said this 2 days ago to the audience I spoke to. I said, and the majority here, I think, are Muslim. You know more about Islam than I do. You've been Muslim all your lives. I've not come to tell you anything new about Islam. I've been Muslim by the grace of Allah for 10 years now. And I'm learning every day how to be a Muslim. So I've not come to tell you how to be Muslims. All I've come to do is to share my experience. You know, when you're new to Islam, when you're new to anything, you ask yourself, why do they do this? You know, you join any club, and you ask yourself, I wonder why they do that in this club. Well, as one new to Islam, all the time I asked myself, why do we do this as Muslims? And so from my background, which we'll talk about, I'm just telling you what you already know, but I'm saying it in a way that perhaps you've never heard it said before. So first of all, I thank you for honouring me and inviting me to your beautiful, beautiful island nation of Sri Lanka. I've only been here a few days. It's my first time. I knew within half an hour, I learnt it very quickly, that Sri Lankans are full of fun, that they're very gentle and simple and very kind people. And I discovered in the talks I've given, it takes a little bit for them to calm down and smile, but then once they feel calm, their smile is very warm. So thank you for inviting me. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is, this is very, very important, because it could be there are people here who are not Muslim. And you know, the title of this talk is From the Vatican to Al-Azhar, My Journey to Islam. And I say at the start of this talk, whenever I give it, if there's anyone here in this room today, you know, from the Vatican to Al-Azhar, if anyone's come here tonight to hear me criticize the church, or the Pope, or the Bible, or Christian teaching, you've come to the wrong talk. Go and listen to someone else. Because all I have to say, and I hope to prove it in my words, is all I have in my heart is great love for the people who made me the person I am today. So I'm sure no one has come here for a fight. If anyone has come to play games with religion, I give up, you've won. I don't play games with religion. Anyone who wants to play, fight, you win. I surrender. You understand? We're not about, religion is too important. People's faith is too important for us to play games. We respect one another. You know, your island nation is made up of many, many different faith communities, each of them very rich. And you're all Sri Lankans. You all walk under the same Sri Lankan sun. You know, you all eat the same food from the Sri Lankan earth. You're brothers and sisters to one another. And you enrich one another, and you enrich your nation from your different backgrounds. So I hope I'm beginning, you know, I haven't started the talk really, but I'm hoping I'm beginning to set the tone. The tone of my talk tonight is that people of faith should never be afraid of goodness. You know, wherever we find goodness, we should embrace it. Because goodness doesn't come from the devil. Goodness comes from Allah Almighty, comes from Almighty God. So when we meet good people of whatever religion, we have more in common with those people than we have with those secular people who would do away with religion altogether and make religion seem silly. And people of faith, of all faiths, when they are close to one another and are friends, their voice will be listened to. But the trick of the people who are not religious is they divide false wedges between people of faith, and they make our voice very quiet. But when we speak as one, with one loud voice about the family and about social issues, about justice, people will sit up and listen. Now, I'm already getting a bit carried away. That's not what my talk is about. I'm talking about my journey to Islam. I want to begin. We might get round to the journey eventually, okay? But there's a lot of things I want to say as part of what I want to say to you tonight. It's lovely that so many people have come. And I'm delighted too. Another thing to say, very important, with television cameras here, is to say how delighted I am to see how many Muslim women there are here. It is very, very important. In Islam, the television talks a lot of nonsense sometimes about Islam. Islam holds high the position of women. We respect the position of women in Islam. And if there is anywhere in the Muslim world where women are oppressed, that is not of Islam. That is cultural backwardness, and it is not of Islam. Islam holds high the position of women, and I'm delighted to see so many sisters here tonight. You are an example to us all. And you're an example to Muslim women everywhere. And I hope Muslim women in the whole of Sri Lanka will be encouraged by seeing you here. And I hope the Muslim brothers will encourage their wives and their daughters and their sisters to attend all events that teach them about our beautiful religion. It's very important. So, again, I haven't started. I want to start by telling you a journey I made about 2 years ago. I was invited to Istanbul. I don't know if you've heard of Harun Yahya. There's a Turkish Muslim writer called Harun Yahya. And he writes about creation and Darwin and those sort of things. And he invited me to Istanbul to make a TV interview and to talk about some things. So I went to see him. I went to Istanbul. But while I was there, and once again, this is setting the tone of what I want to say tonight. While I was there, I also met two other people. You must forgive me too. Your country is very hot, and I need to keep taking sips of water. Okay, Bismillah. The first person I went to see was His All Holiness Bartholomew I, Patriarch of Constantinople. Now, Bartholomew I, he is the head of 350 million Greek Orthodox Christians in the world. He is to the Greek Church what the Pope in Rome is to the Roman Church. So he's a big fish, 350 million. And I went to his residence on the Bosphorus, and I was taken through these corridors by liveried servants in white gloves, and I was taken up to the office of the Patriarch. And he was sitting in his study, and he's a small man, little old man, with a very respectable white Muslim beard, and a big smile on his face. And with him was his interfaith advisor, Metropolitan Emmanuel of France. And I said to the Patriarch, I said, All Holiness, you honor me, and you honor all Muslims by this meeting. And as Muslims, we want to be friends with all people of goodwill. And even though we disagree on what we believe, we all believe that there's a God in heaven. And there's much that links us together. And I was supposed to be with the Patriarch for 20 minutes. Well, I stayed for an hour. And then at the end of the hour, he said, now my secretary, he said, must take you around the archives. And we'll show you the archives of the Orthodox Church going back for centuries. And then after that, he said, and now you must stay for lunch. And I was taken to the patriarchal dining room. with a great big long table with the patriarch sitting at the end, and all of these metropolitan archbishops with big hats and medals and staffs, and I was sitting there at the end feeling very, very small. And at the end of it, when it was time to leave, at the time I was living in Damascus, in Syria. And in Damascus, I don't know if you've seen them, they have these lovely little wooden boxes. And on the lid of the box, in different inlaid wood, they have arabesque designs. Okay? In Cairo, we have the same, but made out of mother of pearl. Well, in Damascus, it's different wood. So I got one of these boxes, and in the box, I put some of my books. I put some of my books in the box to give the patriarch. But there was a space around in the box. There was a gap. So I filled the gap with chocolates. And I said at the end, I said, "All Holiness, I brought you a gift." "Oh, you shouldn't have brought me a gift," he said. I think he wanted a gift. And I said to him, "I hope you have a very sweet tooth. Because," and I opened the box, "because Islam is very sweet." And he saw the chocolates and he said, "Oh, can we eat them now?" I said, "No, they're for you." And that started, that meeting with the Patriarch of Constantinople began I've had meetings with many bishops and archbishops of the Orthodox Church. And the following week, the private secretary of the Patriarch, whose title is Chief Secretary of the Holy and Sacred Synod of the Orthodox Church, he added me as a friend on Facebook. So I thought, well, that was a successful meeting, that went well. After seeing the Patriarch, I went to see someone else. I'm leading up to something important. After seeing the Patriarch, I went to see the Chief Rabbi of Turkey. And I went to the Chief Rabbinate. And this time I wasn't meted with young men with white gloves. I was met at the door with young men with machine guns. It was difficult to get in, and tanks outside. And I was taken in eventually through doors that opened, and taken up to the office of the Chief Rabbi of Turkey. And his office, very big, maybe half the size of this hall, a very big office. And his desk here with a big oil painting of Kemal Ataturk, the founder of secular Turkey. And the Chief Rabbi was dressed in the robes of Chief Rabbi. And in Turkish, he's called Hahambasha, which means in Turkish, the Chief Wise Man. Because in 1453, Sultan Mehmet II conveyed on the leader of the Jewish community in the Ottoman Empire the title Chief Wise Man of the Ottoman Empire. Can you imagine? I hope the TV is hearing that. We don't hear that on the TV. That Muslims conferred on a Jew the title Chief. And what were they doing there? What were they doing in the Ottoman Empire to start with? They had fled from Spain. The Jews had fled from Spain, where they were being burned alive in their synagogues. And they didn't just turn up at the door in Turkey. They fled there for safety. And they've lived there now for 500 years. So the Chief Rabbi was dressed in the robes. And I said to him, as I always do, I said, "Sir, you honour me and you honour all Muslims by this meeting. But," I said, "there's something I need to say before we continue." This is very important. I said to him, "If you think that my being here is in any way approving the so-called Israel or Zionism or what is happening to my brothers and sisters in Palestine this day, well, I have to leave because we have nothing to talk about. But if, as men of faith, as men of God, we can talk about the one God in whom we believe, well, I believe we have a lot to talk about." And he took me by the arm and said, "You're a very wise man, please stay." And for about an hour we laughed and joked, and we said very serious things to one another, and we disagreed on many things. But at the end of the meeting we embraced, and he said to me, "When you meet your Muslim friends, tell them that the Chief Rabbi of Turkey said that Muslims and Jews hold one very common phrase in common. La ilaha illallah. There is no God but the one God in heaven." That was the chief rabbi of Turkey. Now, no one added me on Facebook, but I think that meeting too went very well. Now, from that meeting with the chief rabbi, I went back to Damascus. And this was Christmas time. And I was in the living room of the Mufti of Damascus, Sheikh Abdul Fattah al-Bazim. And we were watching the television. And on the television news, we saw the F-16 fighter jets coming into Gaza and starting to drop white phosphorus bombs on little old ladies carrying shopping bags, and children skipping in the street, and boys being taken home, going home from work on cycles. And a day or two later, I returned to Cairo, back home to Cairo where I live. Now, when I got to Cairo, 2 years ago, I wrote for an English newspaper there called Egyptian Mail. And I said to the editor of the newspaper, look, whilst this terrible business is going on in Gaza, there's a hospital just not far from us called Mustashfa Mahad al-Nasr, Victory Institute Hospital, or just along the Nile. And in this hospital, there are many young men and boys from Gaza who've been injured, and they've come for excellent medical treatment in Egypt. Why don't I go for half an hour and interview some of these men? We'll write an article in the newspaper, and that'll be that. He said, great idea, off you go. So the next day, I went to the hospital. And my plan had been to stay at the hospital for half an hour. I stayed, brothers and sisters, I stayed for 4 hours. And I couldn't drag myself away. And the only reason I left after 4 hours is because my heart couldn't bear it anymore. It was too much to take. Because, you know, that afternoon, it was one of the most important events ever in my life. That afternoon, I met Muslims. I met real Muslims. You know, we call ourselves Muslims. We talk about calling others to Islam. We don't even get up in the morning to pray. These men and boys had lost their arms and legs. They'd lost their babies. Their homes had been blown up for the sake of Islam. So I met real men. You know, real men, real Muslims in Gaza. While we're sitting here, by the way, I said this the other day, you know, while we're sitting here in a nice hall with air conditioning, you know, we'll all go home to our houses and have whatever we want from the fridge. While we're sitting here, our brothers and sisters are scurrying under the ground like rats in Palestine, trying to get food and drink for their families. And we sit and watch the television and cry our eyes out, saying, why won't someone do something to help them? Why doesn't and that's all we do. You know, the first person I met in that hospital was a little boy called Yahya. He was 8 years old. And little Yahya was waiting for his 26th operation. 26th operation, 8 years old. He hadn't been hurt in this latest atrocity, but he'd been hurt when he was in his mother's womb. And poison had been dropped from the sky, and his mother had inhaled the poison. And the poor little mite had been deformed for the rest of his life. And he was waiting. And in his little red tracksuit, I said to him, can I have a photograph with you? Because you're such a pretty little boy. Come. And he came. He could hardly move because his arms were in plaster and his legs. And he moved himself onto the bed. If you go to my website, www.idreestawfiq.com, and look at the gallery of photos, you'll see Yahya. And now, I'm not wearing a suit today because it's too hot. Okay? But normally when I travel, I wear a suit. And on my lapel, I have a Palestinian badge. Because when I finished with those men that day, I said to them, brothers, I haven't got any money to give you. I haven't got any money in the bank. I haven't even got any money in my pocket. But I promise you that from this day, wherever I go, anywhere in the world, I will tell people about my brothers and sisters in Palestine. So I'm being true to my promise to those men. You know, I'm honouring them because they honoured me. But I hope I'm teaching you some important things too in telling and starting the story of my journey, you know. Because I met one man there There's a picture of him on the website, and he's lying on the bed, and his arms and his legs are encased in wire, because all the bones inside are all crushed to nothing. And the day before I met him, his little baby died in Gaza. And it's heartbreaking. And I said to the man, brother, I said, where will peace come in all of this? Where will peace come from? And do you know what he said? Peace, he said, we have peace already. We don't need America to give us peace. We don't need the European Union to give us peace. Islam, he said, gives us peace. Islam gives us peace. These are Muslims. We fret and worry about so many stupid little things. These men, they've lost their children and their wives, their arms and legs. That afternoon, you could have imagined, I would hear people saying, oh, what are we going to do? Isn't this terrible? I didn't hear that once. All I heard for 4 hours were young men and boys crying out, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. God is the most great. That's what I heard. That is Islam. That is Islam. And that's the Islam I came to discover. Now you're all looking very serious, so I'll have to lighten the tone now. But I've got you now, you're listening, so that's the important thing. By the way, I've discovered with Sri Lankans, I've got the trick now with Sri Lankans. You look very serious, as an audience you look very serious. But I've discovered that underneath the serious, because you think Islam, you must be very serious if it's Islam. But I know deep down you're all full of fun, and I can see it on your faces. So I know the trick now. Okay, I know that you're very sweet and lovely people. So let me lighten the tone by telling you about Pope John Paul II. Okay, I want to tell you about the very first time I met Pope John Paul II. Lest there be anyone here thinks I've come to criticize. I haven't. There is not a critical bone in my body about any religion. We can disagree with people, and we can say, my dear friend, I think that what you believe is totally wrong. Let's go for lunch together. We needn't fight over our belief. We can disagree. It doesn't make me lose any sleep that someone doesn't believe the same thing as me. Anyway, the Pope. The first time I met Pope John Paul II, when I was in Rome, studying for the priesthood, every first Saturday, the Pope used to hold what's called a rosary service. Now, some Muslims use sibha. We say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. Well, Roman Catholics use something similar. It's called a rosary. And what they do is they pray, they ask Mary, the mother of Jesus, to pray for them. Catholics don't worship Mary, don't think they do. They ask Mary to pray for them. So this service was held every first Saturday of the month. Now, you've seen on the TV, when the Pope comes out on Easter Sunday, you see him on the news, the Pope comes out on the balcony and greets people like this. You've seen him? You've seen him do this? Well, behind him, if this is St. Peter's Basilica, and he's in the middle, behind him there's a row of windows. Okay, well, I'll let you into a secret. All those windows are just one room. One long room, okay? So we'll imagine the room is this way. It's a bit narrower than this, but it has an aisle down the middle, okay? And the Pope would come in and pray and then go out. And I was told that it was to start at 8 in the evening. I was told if you get there early enough, you'll actually get to meet the Pope. It was a bit like a Madonna concert. Get there early enough and you get to meet the star, okay? So I was there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon with all the nuns queuing up at the great bronze doors of St. Peter's, and we waited all afternoon. And then when it was time, they opened the big doors, the Swiss guards opened the doors, and we all lifted our skirts and ran as fast as we could through the corridor and up the stairs of the Apostolic Palace to this big room. And I was told what you must do is get yourself on the aisle, get a seat on the aisle, and the Pope will shake hands with you. So I was about halfway down, where the sister is in orange. That's where I was. So the Pope came in. Now, all that time ago, this is, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, it's a long time. But even then, Pope John Paul, he was old and frail. He'd been shot, and he'd broken his hip and had suffered a lot. And he came in on this kind of old and doddery, and he came on this side and shook hands with all the people on the aisle on this side. And I watched, and he was shouting out in all the people were shouting out in every language. I'm from Beijing, I'm from Zimbabwe, I'm from Peru, I'm from Timbuktu, all in their own languages. And the poor man, I could see on his face, it just wasn't registering. You know, it was going over him, all the different clamouring people. So I said to myself, you've got to think of something, or he's just going to walk past. You get the idea? I thought, think of something to say, or he won't really hear you and he'll just move on. So he came up this side and prayed the rosary. And then when it was, may God forgive me, I didn't have a prayerful thought in my head. I was just thinking, what can I do to get him to stay with me? Okay. So he came down and he came to me. Now I need, brother, would you just come and be the Pope 1 second? Okay. Just come here. So Pope John Paul came out and he shook my hand. Okay. So I shook his hand too. Okay. Now take your hand away now. The Pope was going nowhere. Okay. Thank you, brother. I had hold of him and he couldn't get away, because I was holding on to his hand. So he talked. I can't remember what he said really, but at the end of talking, he was a very lovely man, and he used to say to people when it was time to end a meeting, he would say, "The Pope is very busy," and that meant off you go. Okay. Well, he said the Pope is very busy, but I kept hold of his hand, and so he pulled, and as he pulled, the gold ring of St. Peter on his right hand came off and ended up in the palm of my hand. And Pope John Paul looked me in the eye and he said, "I believe that belongs to the Pope." And he took it back and put it on his finger. And that was the first of many times I met that. You see, am I proving to you? If there are any Catholics here, you can see the love I have for the Church. I really do. There's no animosity at all. I met the Pope many times. In fact, once I served as a deacon with him in St. Peter's. This is a lovely story. When the Pope was dying, when John Paul was dying, in the Policlinico Gemelli in Rome, the Muslims, can you imagine that? They don't tell you this on the TV. The Muslims prayed for his recovery during Friday prayers. They prayed that the Pope of Rome would get well. Now, why would they do that? Because some years before, the Muslims of Rome had been trying to build a mosque. And there were great protests in Rome about the building of this mosque. And I remember there were demonstrations with placards calling for a new crusade to stop these infidels coming to the eternal city. And it took the intervention of the Pope of Rome himself with the Italian government to say to them, let these Muslims build their mosque. So they built what is now the biggest mosque in Europe. And they loved him. They loved the Pope because he'd got the Pope, the mosque to be built. And then as well, another thing, towards the end of his life, during Ramadan, he used to ask the Catholics of Rome to fast on the Fridays of Ramadan in solidarity with their Muslim friends. See how lovely that is. Great humility on his part. So the Muslims of Rome loved him. And on his deathbed, when he died, a whisper went around Rome amongst the Muslims. Now, I don't want to be sound bitten on this one. We have to have the whole story here. A whisper went around the Muslims of Rome. The Pope became a Catholic on his deathbed. Now listen to the story. I don't know if he did or he didn't. It's unlikely that he did, but who knows? Allah alone knows. But you know how, if there's someone in your work or someone in your school that you like very much, I'm talking to the Muslims here, there's someone you like so much they're not Muslim. You know how you think, if only they could be Muslim. You know how you think that? Because there's nothing nicer a Muslim could wish for someone else than that he be Muslim or that she be Muslim. Well, when the Muslims of Rome said the Pope became a Muslim, it said nothing about the Pope. What it says was how much they loved him. You understand? That they could say he became Muslim meant they really wanted him to be. So I hope with that story we've laid, you know, I don't want any newspapers or TVs to be sound biting what I've said. Because all I've said is absolute love for those people. I know now that when I was in Rome, training to be a priest, learning about church history and New Testament Greek and the Gospels, I know now I wasn't learning to be a priest. I was training to be talking to you tonight in Colombo, Sri Lanka. Now, before we carry on, there's one thing I should have said at the start. I said this the other day, but this is so important to say. I forgot to say it at the beginning, so I will say it now because it's so important. You know, I don't know why I'm here tonight. Of all the places in the world I could be giving a talk, you know, I could be in Kuala Lumpur giving a talk. I could be in San Francisco or the Maldives or Paris. I'm here. I'm here in Sri Lanka. Now, I'm here obviously because I was invited. I just didn't come to the airport and say, I want to give some talks. I was invited to come here. But why Allah Almighty wants me here tonight, I'm not sure. I don't know why. But what I do know for sure, I know with absolute certainty, that when He who created the heavens and the earth and everything in between, at the beginning of time, created His creation, it was part of His plan that I would be here tonight with you. And I know with certainty too, brothers and sisters, that at the beginning of time, Allah Almighty planned that you too would be in this room tonight, whether you're Muslim or not. Now, we're very slow to hear what Almighty God has to say to us. Very slow. So, quite what He wants to say to us tonight, I'm not sure. But it could be, you know, that there's a Muslim here in this room tonight who doesn't pray. And God Almighty, Allah, has brought us all here tonight just for that one man to bring him back to Islam. He's brought me all the way from Cairo and you all the way from your homes just for that one man. It could be that there's someone who's come in this hall tonight who hates Islam, doesn't like Islam at all, and has come very angry and critical. It could be that Allah Almighty wants to touch that woman's heart or that man's heart and say to them, calm down, Islam isn't quite what the television told you. I don't know why. I don't know why He's brought us here. But I ask you tonight, during these few words, and then when you go home and in the week following, ask yourself, why did Allah bring me to that talk? What did He want to say to me? Not did what Idrees, Tawfiq want to say. That's what I've got to say is of no importance at all. What did Allah want to say to you? How did He want to touch your heart tonight? What does He want you to do? What does He want from you? It could be He wants someone in this room to become Muslim. Who knows what He wants? Allahu Alam. God knows. So my journey. The time's almost gone, but now we'll get to my journey to Islam. When I was at the university, after university, I entered a Roman Catholic religious order. An order of teaching brothers. You've seen nuns, you've seen sisters, yeah? Well, I wasn't a sister, I was a brother. We lived in a community of about 8 to 12 men, living a communal religious life together, and we taught in schools, teaching children about their religion, about the Catholic religion. And so for many years, I was in this religious order as a brother, and I was head of religious education in different schools up and down England and Wales. And after some years, 10, 15 years, I thought to myself, well, I want to take my work a little bit further. And instead of just working with children in school, I'd like to work with all people in the parish, with adults and children and prisoners and all sorts of different people. So I went to the bishop and I said to the bishop, I want to become a priest. Now, I was a bit cunning in preparing for that meeting. Because I knew there were two places the bishop could send me to train to be a priest. He could either send me to the local training college, the local seminary, which was in a field in the middle of nowhere, with not a shop for miles around, or he could send me to Rome. Okay? Now, I knew in my mind where I wanted to go, so I prepared my words well. And he said to me during the interview, he said, "Brother, what are your interests?" My interests, I said, "I like Italian opera, Baroque architecture, and travel." And he said to me, "Oh, well, maybe I could send you to Rome." "Oh, how lovely," I said, "that would be very nice." And so I was sent off to Rome to study. And Rome was a wonderful place. And the thing I learned most in Rome was to love beautiful things. Because Rome is a beautiful city, full of beautiful, beautiful things. And I learned to like beautiful things. And in Rome I met good people. I met bad people too, but we needn't mention them. I met very good people. You know, I met the present Pope when he was Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger. I met Mother Teresa of Calcutta, you know, who gave her life working with the poorest of the poor dying in the gutters of this world. Wonderful. I met people training to be priests and nuns. I met people training to be nothing, but good, honest people. So it was a very privileged time. And at the end of my time in Rome, I was ordained a deacon. A deacon is like half a priest. And then I travelled back to the UK and was eventually ordained a priest. And I've got to be very careful what I say here, because Muslims don't really understand. You know, the life of a priest is a privileged life in the very best sense. It's an honour to be a priest. Because as a priest, people allow you into their lives at very intimate moments. You know, they send for you when their babies have been born. They send for you when their parents are dying, to anoint them and to bury them. They call for you when they want to be married or to hear their confessions. It's a very privileged time. And I loved my work as a priest. And, you know, I can put my hand on my heart and say I was good at my job. And the people in the parish loved me. They did love me and I loved them. But there was a problem. There was a problem. And this is important, you know, because Allah Almighty speaks to us all in different ways. Each one in this room is a different person. And he speaks to us all differently. You know how when one man marries a woman, okay, he chooses that woman and marries her, and his friends say, "Well, I don't know what you saw in her really, but he thinks she's wonderful." We're all different. You get the idea? We're all totally different. And Allah speaks His word to us in different ways. There are some people, you know, their minds are scientific minds. So He speaks to them through science. We have in Islam what we call the scientific miracles of the Quran. And some people, they really speak to them about creation. To be honest, they leave me cold, because I'm not a scientist. I don't really understand them. There are some people, they'll see a beautiful mountain scene or a sunset, like on the lovely corniche you have here in Colombo, and it will speak to them of the Creator. He spoke to me through my heart. Because even though I loved my work, my heart wasn't happy. I was lonely. I was lonely. I had no problem at all with my religion. None. I loved it. And so I made the very difficult decision to leave the priesthood. But I had no plan whatever to leave my religion. It's very important to understand. You know, some people say, "Why did you give up your religion? Leave the..." I didn't. I was very happy being a Catholic. Very, very happy. It was my job that was making me unhappy. You know, you'd be working with people all day long in these intimate ways. And then you'd go at night to a house and close the door and be on your own. It was a lonely life. And in the end I said, I can't live this life anymore. I have to leave. So I left the priesthood, but with no plan of leaving the church. Now, leaving the priesthood is like it's like a divorce and a death and your house burning down all rolled into one. It's a big thing, it's a big deal. And it left me feeling very low. So I said to myself, you need to get away and take a holiday. Okay? You know how, sisters, sometimes you're feeling a bit down in the dumps. And to cheer yourself up, you go out and buy yourself a new hijab. You know, a nice cheerful hijab, or the brothers, you know, you're feeling miserable, you go and buy yourself a new pair of trainers. Or something, a new saw, or something like that, to cheer yourself up. Well, I said, what you need is a holiday. So I looked, I'd no money. And I looked on the internet for the cheapest holiday I could find. Now, the cheapest holiday I could find was a holiday to Egypt. Now, I didn't know anything about Egypt at all. Nothing. Didn't know anything about Egypt. I knew pyramids, sand, camels, palm trees. Oh yes, and one problem. Muslims. Now, I'd never met a Muslim in my life. Never met one. I didn't know anything about Islam. All I knew about Islam is what everyone knows. That Muslims blow themselves up and chop your hands off and hit women. And that's what I knew about Islam. So I said to myself, bit of a problem here. If you go to Egypt, these Muslims might capture you. They might kidnap you and keep you in a darkened room, blindfolded, and hold you ransom, or even cut your head off. Seriously, it was I said to him, really, shall I go or not? But in the end I said, well, it's either there or nowhere, because you've got no money to go anywhere else. So I said, I'll take the risk and I'll go and be in the middle of all these Muslims. And I went, and that week changed my life. Because it was in Egypt that I met Muslims for the first time. I met Islam for the first time. And this is very important too. You know, my introduction to Islam didn't come from meeting some important sheikh giving a talk. It was shabby. And he was wearing little plastic flip-flops on his feet, and he was thin. And I walked from my hotel, and I passed this little boy. When he saw me, when he saw my white skin, his face lit up. And he said to me, Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, that was my introduction to Islam. A little boy without tuppence to his name said to me and meant, peace be upon you. And for the rest of the week, I would walk from my hotel and see this little lad, and each morning he would greet me. Bismillah. And I learned to say some words to him in Egyptian Arabic. I'd greet him and I'd say, Zayak. Zayak means, how you doing? Zayak ya habibi, Zayak ya gamil. Hello, pretty little one. That's how Egyptians talk. And he would reply, Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah. That was my introduction to Islam. That was my introduction to Islam. I could give a talk about Egypt and the people I met that week. We haven't got time. At the end of the week, I went back home to the UK. I hadn't learned much about Islam, but I'd learned that Muslims were not these saber-rattling maniacs that the television told me they were. And it left an impression in me. But I'd no plan to do anything different, you know. And then the journey began. A journey of over a year. Of one thing leading to another, and meeting another person and thinking. Now all I can do is give you little sound bites of that journey. I can't give you the wrestling that went on in my mind, you know, over different ideas. I can't give you that. I can just tell you the people and the things that happened. When I was in London, I had no job. So I had to get myself a job quick. So I got myself in a job in a school teaching as head of RE in a school. Now this school was, I don't know what kind of schools you have in Sri Lanka, but in Britain, state schools teach all 6 religions to the children. Buddhism, Sikhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity and Islam. Now I knew about Christianity. I could teach the kids that, no problem. Judaism, well, I knew enough to wing that one as well and teach the kids about that. But the other four, I knew nothing about them at all. So I had to read about them to teach the children. So to teach about Islam, I had to get the books out every night before the class the next day and read. For the young people here, I'll let you into a secret. Sometimes your teachers don't know what they're talking about. You know, I had to get the books and read. Oh, what am I going to say tomorrow about Islam? And so I found, oh, and by the way, in this school, there were many, it was a very rough school, very tough school. And many of the kids in the school were from Arab countries. There were refugees from different countries we're hearing about on the television these days. You know, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Iraq. They were all refugees. And very naughty. The naughtiest children you've ever met, really. They were, especially the Yemenis. They were the naughtiest children of all. And the Somalis. Very, very naughty. But what I had to... So they were Muslims. So I had to teach these kids about Islam for their public exams, for their GCSE exams. And as the months went on, you know, I was reading more about Islam to teach them. And I got more and more to like what I was reading. Until, you know, after some months, I'd be standing in front of a class of 30 kids. And I'd mention the name of Prophet Muhammad, ﷺ, and I'd find that tears would come into my eyes. Or I'd be teaching them about the 5 pillars of Islam, and a lump would come in my throat of emotion. And I had to cover it up, because these kids would eat you if they saw any weakness. You know what kids can be in school. Any weakness for the teacher, and they pounce. So I had to be very... But as the months went up, the more I read about Islam, the more I liked what I read. And I was reading all the other religions at the same time. You know? But for some reason, Islam was speaking to my heart. And more months went, and Ramadan came. Ramadan came, and the kids came to me and they said, "Sir, it's Ramadan and we've got nowhere to pray. And your room is the only room in the school with a carpet." What a coincidence, eh? My room was the only room of all the rooms in the school with a carpet and a wash basin. And the kids said, "Can we pray in your room?" So I said, "Well, that would be lovely. I'd love you to pray in my room. Just let me check with the headmaster first." So I went to the headmaster, who was a very good Quaker, a very good Christian man. And I said to him, "Look, these Muslim kids want to pray during Ramadan in my classroom. Is it okay?" He said, "Yes, it's fine. But you must stay in the room and supervise them, because knowing these children, they could steal the carpet." So Ramadan began, and I sat here at the back, marking my books and preparing my lessons, and the kids prayed, and I paid no attention to them. And after 2 or 3 days, you know, from marking my books, I'd look up, and I'd say, "Oh, they're doing this now." Carry on. And now they're doing this. So by the end of Ramadan, I knew what you did to pray. Just by watching these children, I knew what you did to pray. And then as well, at the start, I went secretly to the internet, and I learned off by heart the words that they were saying. So by the end of Ramadan, I'd learned how to pray. And as well, you know, when they came to me and said, "Sir, can we pray in your classroom?" I said to them, "Okay, I'm not Muslim, but to encourage you, because you're praying, and that's a good thing, I will fast with you during Ramadan." So for the whole of Ramadan, I fasted. So by the end of this Ramadan, I'd learned how to pray, as Muslims pray, and I'd fasted for the whole of the holy month. And time went on. More months went on. And during the course of this year, you know, at the start I was going to church all the time. And then, you know, I'd miss going to church a bit. And I found myself, you know, some people say, "Oh, what was the exact point?" I'm stopping your question, because someone will always say, "But what was the exact point that changed your mind?" There wasn't one. There wasn't an exact point. At the start of the year I was here, and at the end of the year and a bit, I was Muslim. You know, and it took a year of people and events and talking and thinking and praying to go from there to there. You understand? At no stage during the year did I stop having any faith. You know, I've always been religious, I always have since I was a little boy. So there was no question of losing my faith. It's just that my faith changed during the year. At the start of the year I believed that, and at the end of the time I believed that. So after the Ramadan experience, you know, I said to myself, it's time now for you to start seriously learning a bit more about Islam for yourself. Not for the kids in school anymore, but for yourself. You need to know more about this because you like Islam. Because by now, after 9-10 months, I was very comfortable with Muslims. I liked Muslims. And of all the religions I was looking at, I liked Islam. So I started to go in London Central Mosque. It's the biggest mosque in London. Beautiful mosque built by the King of Saudi Arabia. Every Saturday afternoon, they have what's called Islamic Circle for new Muslims. A bit like you have at CIS on a Sunday morning. Like a circle to discuss things for people who are new to Islam. So I would go to these, and for people interested in Islam, new Muslims, Muslims wanting to know more. And I attended every Saturday for months. And I learnt lots about Islam. You know, we learnt about the 5 pillars, and history of Islam, and Prophet Muhammad, different things. And the last talk was given by Yusuf Islam. I can't remember what the talk was about. But at the end of the talk, I went to him and I said, Yusuf Islam, if someone wanted to be Muslim, what would they have to do? I said, I don't want to be Muslim, but just say someone did. What would they have to do? And he said to me, well, Muslims believe in one God. I said to him, well, I can put my hand on my heart and say that I believe in one God. And he said, Muslims pray 5 times a day. I said, well actually, I know the prayers in Arabic. And he gave me a very strange look. And he said, and Muslims fast during Ramadan. I said, well actually, I fasted in Ramadan. And he looked at me straight in the eye, as the Pope had done. And he said to me, brother, you are Muslim already. Who are you trying to fool? And with those words, brother, you are Muslim already. Who are you trying to fool? The adhan sounded, the call to prayer for Salat al-Maghrib, for the sunset prayer. Allahu Akbar. And all the people got up to go and pray in the prayer hall up above. And I was left downstairs like a drunken man. My head was spinning. All I had in my head was, brother, you are Muslim already. Who are you trying to fool? And then I heard this, Allahu Akbar. So I followed them upstairs to the prayer hall. And in the prayer hall, massive prayer hall, the brothers prayed in front, and the sisters prayed in the beautiful gallery up above. And I sat myself against the back wall to listen to what was going on. And Salat al-Maghrib began, the sunset prayer began. And as the Quran began to be recited, I started to cry. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried like a baby. And it was as if angels came down into the mosque. You know, just so many angels came down and were battering my heart. And at the end of the prayer, I said to myself, well, this is why you're here, really. God Almighty, Allah wants you to be Muslim. It's quite clear. So I went to Yusuf Islam and I said, brother, I want to be Muslim. Tell me what I have to do. He said, you have to say these words after me. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I bear witness that there is nothing, there is no one, there is no created being worthy of worship but Allah alone, the one God in heaven. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant slave and his messenger. And I said those words. And you know, if you're not Muslim, if you don't know, that's it, that's all you do to be Muslim. You don't have to sign any forms. You don't have to pay any fee. You just say those words, I bear witness that there's no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger, and you're Muslim. Ideally, you say it in front of witnesses. But if there are no witnesses, you can say it without. And when you meet someone, you can repeat it. So I said those words, and the brothers came and congratulated me and embraced me. And Yusuf Islam said, what I want you to do now, brother, is go home and take a bath or a shower. Because he said, you, of all the Muslims in this mosque today, you are the best Muslim present because you are without sin. Because your declaration of Islam forgave all the sins of your past. And he said, I want you to go home and feel in your body the washing, feel the cleansing that has come into your life. And I went and did that. And, you know, the title of the talk is From the Vatican to Al-Azhar. I thought, you know, that was it. With the declaring Shahada, I thought, that's it. I'm a teacher in school. I'm teaching Muslim kids about Islam. A year or is that rain? Is that rain we can hear? You see how beautiful Allah is. You see how He showers us with blessings every day. You know, in Egypt we don't get rain very often. When it rains, the people go out into the street and they dance and sing and they praise Allah Almighty. You know, every day Allah is showering us with His blessings. He's showering us with His blessings and we don't see them. You know, we're too busy to hear His message to us. I thought when I declared Shahada that was it. But a year later a job came up in Egypt, teaching in Egypt. So I said, oh, I'll go to Egypt and I'll take my job in Egypt. So I moved to Egypt and again I thought, well, this is it. My life has totally changed. I've become Muslim and I've gone to live in a foreign land. Wow, what an extraordinary change in your life. By the way, before I went to Egypt, I didn't change my name as a Muslim. When you become Muslim, you don't have to change your name, by the way. If there's anyone here who's not Muslim, thinks you do, you don't. You don't have to change your name at all. But when I went to live in a Muslim land, it seemed obvious, it seemed a sensible thing to do, to take a Muslim name. Otherwise it would have confused people. You know, why would he have a Christian name if he's Muslim, living in a Muslim country? You understand? So that's why I changed. If I'd stayed in London, I don't know what I would have done. So, 2, 3, 4 years after maybe of living in Egypt, my imam said to me, the local imam, he said, would you come and give a talk in my company? I work in a printing company, a publishing company, and we'd like you to give a talk about your journey to Islam. And I said, oh, I don't know about that. I've never given a talk like that before. So I went and gave the talk. And at the end of it they said, would you write down what you've told us and we'll put it on the internet? And I thought to myself, an hour's talk, that's a lot of writing. I'd be writing all night long. Why don't I instead write a book about Islam? I'll write a book for my English friends in Egypt about Islam. So again, by coincidence, I had no plan to write one. I wrote the book about Islam. And I found an audience, came from nowhere. I thought I was writing for English non-Muslims about Islam. And all of a sudden, the book had 2 groups, non-Muslims and Muslims as well. I thought, why would Muslims want to read my book about Islam? And especially young Muslims and young professionals, university students. And then, again, one thing led to another. A university asked me to give a talk, a radio station, a television station. And here I am tonight in the Maldives. You know, from the Vatican to Al-Azhar, we were honoured to have Sheikh Said with us. It really touched my heart to see the hat of Al-Azhar. Al-Azhar has a place of love in the hearts of all Muslims. For 1,000 years, it's been the beacon of moderate Sunni Islam. In recent years, Egypt has experienced dark times, and Al-Azhar has fallen out of importance. But now, inshallah, it will rise once more and lead the Muslim nation to beautiful things. So, how do I finish my few words? You know, so I do some talks at Al-Azhar. I write in the newspaper of Al-Azhar University every Friday. The Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, on the back page, he writes at the top, and I write underneath. Subhanallah. So can you imagine? And I say to myself, why would they ask you, Idrees, to do that? So my final thought, I said this in one of the talks, I don't know which one, but I'll say it tonight because there are new people. I want to finish with that little boy in the street who brought me to Islam. Because his message is a message for you tonight. You know, that little boy doesn't know I became Muslim. He never saw me again. He's probably married now with kids of his own. He doesn't know anything about me. But on Judgment Day, when he appears before Allah Almighty, that little boy is going to get the shock of his life. You know, as Muslims, we believe that on Judgment Day, we'll give an account of how we lived. We'll stand naked before Allah. And we'll have to give an account of the way we lived our lives. And our deeds will be read out to us from a clear book, good and bad. And that young man, he will hear his good deeds read out. You did this, and you did this, and you did this, and you did this. And he'll say to himself, yep, that's about it. I didn't do anything else. That's the sum total of the good things I did in life. Only then will it start. Only then will they start declaring from the book all the shahadas that have been declared all over the world because of that little boy. All the books about Islam that have been written because of him. The television programs, the radio, the newspaper, the talks in Sri Lanka and Malay and Kuala Lumpur because of that little boy. And that little boy will get all the blessings for what he did in introducing this foreigner to Islam by his greeting of Assalamu alaikum. That's how beautiful Islam is. You know, we don't need to make a song and dance about Islam to tell people about Islam. In fact, we don't even need to talk about Islam at all. He brought me to Islam. Allah used that little boy. He didn't say a word. All he said was Assalamu alaikum. In the same way, brothers and sisters, you who are a blessing to this nation of Sri Lanka, as Muslims, you know, Islam isn't a threat to anyone. Don't listen to nonsense. Islam is a blessing to your beautiful country. You know, as Muslims, people who come to Islam, we're not asked to become Arabs. No one said to me, you know, when I became Muslim, I'm British. I'm as British as can be. I drink tea in the afternoon. I join a queue wherever I see it. Yeah, and I'm on time. I'm British. And no one calls me to be anything other than British. In the same way as Sri Lankans, you are Sri Lankan. It's your nation. You're part of this country. You love your country. And I would urge you, love your country even more because of Islam. Contribute to the greatness of your nation and its future because of your love for Islam. Let your fellow citizens see you love the country so much by what you want to do for Sri Lanka because of your Islam. And through the beautiful way of behavior that Islam teaches, through Islam's teaching that there is a God, you can be a light in your beautiful country. And inshallah, by your simple actions of telling people in the street, Assalamu alaikum, and greeting them, even more people will come to the beautiful, sweet and gentle message of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Take a few questions. I humbly request you to confine your questions to the subject. Be brief. Kindly do not express opinions, but only ask questions.
Allah sent the little boy. He may be an angel in the form of a little boy for you to become Muslim, and you're born a Muslim by birth. You're quite right. Something very important I want to say. Someone said to me this morning in the car, he talked about the reverts, the Muslim reverts. And I said, brother, please don't use that horrible word. Revert, it sounds horrible in English. Are you a revert? You know, whenever anyone calls me a revert, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Because there's a reasoning behind it. As Muslims, we believe that all people come into this world with an innate belief that there is one God. We're all born as Muslim. But it's the action of our parents that make us whatever other religion they want us to be. So that's why as Muslims we don't talk about converting to Islam, because you can't convert to something that you were when you were born. So some clever clogs at some stage who couldn't speak English very well said, no, we won't call them converts, we'll call them reverts, because they're going back to Islam. But unfortunately, whoever he was, he didn't speak English very well, because in English you revert to something bad. You revert to a life of crime. You revert to smoking. You revert to being a paedophile. You don't revert to Islam. So instead of using that horrible, you know, the Jews could teach us something. If you become a Jew, Jews are forbidden to ever mention to that person that he's a new Jew. He's just a Jew, full stop. You know, I have a friend in Cairo, he's in his 70s, and he accepted Islam 50 years ago, and he said to me, Idrees, when will they stop calling me a new Muslim? He said, I've been Muslim for 50 years, longer than my students have. When will they stop? So, for sure, don't use the word revert, it's not nice. You could say new Muslims if you want to, or you can talk about, I prefer to talk about people who embraced Islam. But you know, revert is not nice, it's not a nice word. So, please don't use it. You got a question? Please.
Well, I want to know the problems you encountered after you embraced Islam, especially from your family circles and your friends and your neighbors. What was their reaction to you? I mean, you had a circle of friends and your family members. How did they respond or react to your coming to Islam?
That's a very good question. Many people who accept Islam, they face a lot of difficulties. You know, some people they're thrown out of the family. Some people they lose their job. Some people think that their friends turn their back on them. They face great difficulty. Alhamdulillah, I never faced any difficulty at all. In Egypt, you know, I tell them I was like a duck to water. I just got in the water and started paddling straight away. And I declared Islam on the Saturday. On the Monday morning, I went into school, and I went to see the headmaster, who was a Quaker, a Christian man. And I said to him, "You'll never believe what happened on Saturday. I became Muslim." He said, "Oh, at last, we've been wondering when it would happen." You know, and the secretary, who was a Catholic, she shook my hand. And I went into the staff room, and they clapped. You know, and the kids gave me cards and little gifts. So alhamdulillah, I didn't experience any problem there. From the people I used to live with as a priest, you see, what I did was, when I left the priesthood, I left it very quiet. I didn't want to upset anyone, so I just moved away very quietly, and I moved to a different part of the country. So when eventually I became Muslim, I was away from those people I used to. So those people I didn't upset, and they didn't experience any upset from me either. And in fact, what I do now is, wherever I travel in the world, I try to meet religious leaders of other faiths. So next week, for example, I'll meet the Bishop of West Malaysia. The Bishop of Colombo, you know, we approached him today, but he's in London. I would love to have met him, but he's in London. I don't approach Catholic bishops, not because I don't want to meet them, but because I don't want to offend them. You understand? I think it's a bit sensitive for me to approach someone who used to be a priest. I don't want to kind of rub it in their face. If they'd like to meet me, I'd be delighted. But to be perfectly honest, I experienced no problem. My family, you know, when I left the priesthood, that was the biggest blow they could ever imagine. They were really hurt and upset by that. A year and a half later, when I became Muslim, you know, they could see by then that I was happy and confident, that I hadn't been kidnapped by anyone, that I wasn't oppressed. So there was no problem at all. The only problems came later. Problems from some Muslims saying to me, who do you think you are, talking about Islam? And from some other groups who, I get emails often from, I get nasty emails from people. I got one recently from someone saying, Idrees, Tawfiq, you are a complete fraud. You're only in this for the money. You're only in this for the petrodollars from Saudi Arabia. I said to myself, if only. If only I knew where these petrodollars were coming from. I was telling someone the other day, sometimes I don't have the money to pay the rent. There's no question of being a fraud and in it for the money. So alhamdulillah, in answer to your question, I experience no problems at all. And all of it, I'm the luckiest man. I mean, most people go to work because they have to. We don't really want to go to work. If we could give up our work, we would. I love my work. I mean, imagine a work where you go, you come to your work and people clap and smile and are happy. It's a wonderful work. And most people don't see the fruits of the work. I do. I see people declaring Shahada. I get emails from young people saying, I've come back to praying after 7 years. I've given up drinking. I've broken off with my boyfriend. It's the most beautiful thing. So, there are no petrodollars, but it's the most beautiful, beautiful thing of all. So no problems at all. Maybe one more, if there's one more, we'll take one more. Other than that, now I don't know the situation in Sri Lanka. I'm very lucky, I can visit a place and I can say things and then I can get out quick when I say them. Okay? So this question, I don't know what motivates this question. I don't know. I don't know what your situation is. He says, Assalamu alaikum, brother. What is your opinion on Sufism? Okay? I don't really have much of an opinion on it, to be perfectly honest. As Muslims, we are what the Holy Quran calls ummatun wasatun. We are an ummah justly balanced, not swaying to right or to left. We are a people of the middle way. And there are different ways of thinking about Islam. One relies on rules and regulations very much. And there are some people who tend towards the rule, obeying the rules. There are some people who tend towards the feelings and feeling good about Allah and spirituality, praying. Okay? Well, we're an ummah justly balanced, so we balance the two. Rules and regulations without the meaning and the feeling, they're meaningless. Feelings on their own, you just end up swaying and feeling whatever you want. You need rules to keep us together. So, I don't have an opinion on Sufism as such. Because as Muslims, we are moderate, Sunni Muslim. We follow the middle way of our Prophet, which takes in the importance of keeping us together with rules and the importance of experiencing the sweetness and the beauty of Allah Almighty.
As you told about the sufferings and all the difficulties the Palestinians face. So, what do you think as Sri Lankans here or people who are away from there? What do you think that we can do for them? Is boycotting and things, products, those are really practical things, or what are these?
May Allah bless you, brother. That's a fantastic question. It's a wonderful way to end. Some Muslims say to me, we love Palestine, but there's nothing we can do. Well, after visiting those people in the hospital, this is the last book I wrote. It's called Looking for Peace in the Land of the Prophets, and it's about Palestine. And the last chapter of the book, called Peace in the Land of the Prophets, in that last chapter, I give 10 ways in which we can help the people of Palestine. 10 ways. And you have to read the book to get the 10 ways. But they include boycotting. Yeah, of course they include boycotting. They include praying. They include, for example, I said to the sisters this morning, the sisters have a fantastic role to play in supporting the people of Palestine. Fantastic role. How? Because they do the family shopping. And they take their children with them to the supermarket to buy the food. And what a wonderful opportunity they have. They say to their kids, they say to Yusuf and Aisha, now we're not going to buy this particular brand of baked beans or this canned drink, because these things support the oppression of your brothers and sisters and your cousins in Palestine. So instead of buying that, we're going to buy a Sri Lankan product that doesn't. You know, now that's perfectly legal. It's perfectly legal, but money talks, you know. Money talks. If we as the Muslims in the world have more money than you can shake a stick at, you and I haven't got it, but all between us we have. You know, and if we stopped spending money on all of these things that pay for bullets and tanks and stuff in this so-called Israel, the country would cease after 5 minutes. So boycotting is very important. There are many things. I'll challenge you, when did you last write to your Member of Parliament about Palestine? You know, don't tell me there's nothing you can do about Palestine if you didn't write to your Member of Parliament. Don't tell me there's nothing you can do if all you do is sit and cry your eyes out and you're guzzling Coca-Cola and eating crisps that support that little boy Yahya having to have a 26th operation. You know, that's all talk. As I said yesterday, you know, some Muslims, it's a cop-out. They say, oh, we need Salah ad-Din to come back and save us. There's no Salah ad-Din coming back. Wake up and smell the coffee. There's no Salah ad-Din. You are Salah ad-Din. You are Salah ad-Din. You are the one. When as Muslims we finally wake up and take our deen seriously, then the world will sit up and listen to us. But while we just idle in backwardness and allow other people to walk all over us, well, why would they listen? We don't deserve to be listened to. Islam is beautiful and gentle and sweet, but it's also very strong. And it can be strong not by being violent. You know, the strength comes from Allah inside us. Islam is a religion of peace, and that peace gives us strength. So, for example, when we're talking with the chief rabbi of Turkey, we can be very polite and very respectful, but we can make very clear there are certain things we will not put up with. You know, your Member of Parliament needs to know what Muslims think. I get a bit carried away. Next time I come, we'll have a talk about Palestine. But there's so much we can do. There are many, many, many things we can do. You know, the most important thing, I think, for Muslims is to raise awareness amongst ourselves of Palestine. I was supposed to speak at a conference in Cairo, but the revolution took place, so it was postponed. And I was to deliver a paper, and the muftis from all over the world were attending, and all the scholars from all over the world. And I was delivering a paper called Jerusalem and the Future of Muslims. And I believe that when, as Muslims, we take Jerusalem seriously, our nation of Islam will rise up once more. But while we remain in idleness and don't take Jerusalem seriously, we don't really deserve to be listened to.
At present, we are doing a certain amount of dawah, not one, but a few other organizations. In other words, like, we are just waiting till somebody comes. Occasionally, we won't stay to them. Is there any advice you would like to give generally to all the people who are here in how everyone could get involved in dawah? The same subject we spoken about today as ambassadors.
Listen, I'm very conscious I don't want to outstay my welcome. You know, I don't want to talk too much. And as a priest, I used to have a rule. You know, when I was on the altar with the altar boys, if the audience started to cough, I'd say to the altar boys, okay, we're leaving by the side entrance after Mass today. Okay? But if they're not coughing, we'll go out the main entrance if they're still interested. So just a little bit more. And then, but it's raining anyway, so we can't really go anywhere. You'll get soaked. So how do we get involved in dawah? I mean, it's a whole... Dawah is everything in Islam. It's everything. Dawah is Islam, really. All dawah. Sometimes we use fancy words. All that dawah, I prefer not even to use the word dawah at all. I just use telling people about Islam. You know, and we can tell people about Islam without mentioning Islam at all. So the most important thing is by the good example of our lives, we tell the people in Sri Lanka about Islam. That's the first one. Another very important one is that I can talk about many things here. One is, as Muslims, you encourage the sisters, you encourage the women in your community. People in the world think things about Islam. They think that women are oppressed and kept down and so on. They're not. If they are, we're doing wrong things. So you should encourage the sisters in your community to be educated, and that's one thing. Your young people, you know, a Muslim community that doesn't invest in its young people has got no future. And you'll just end up with mosques full of old men, because there'll be no young people there. So you have to, and there are young people here tonight, alhamdulillah. It's wonderful to see. So you need to find them something to do, or they'll get fed up. You know, it could be social work, or it could be discussion groups, or many things. I mean, already many of you have added me on Facebook, I'm delighted. So we need to encourage our young, because dawah, all that dawah means is telling people, Muslim and non-Muslim, because there are lots of Muslims who don't know much about Islam. That's my experience, you know, they just don't know what you're talking about. They've no idea. They've been poorly led for years. You know, that on a Friday they're listening, I'm sorry, forgive me, and I'm not criticizing anyone here, but they've been fed a diet of rubbish for years. You know, and they're not being taught or led or challenged in any way. So we need to educate ourselves. We need to, you know, act as a community. We are a community. We're not just people who've turned up for a talk and got nothing in common. We're brothers and sisters to one another. So by the way we dress as Muslims, you know, we need to be smart. We don't want any scruffy Muslims. It doesn't mean you have to be well off and be dressed in fancy clothes, but everyone can clean their clothes. You know, if you're going to talk to anyone about Islam, don't be scruffy. Because Islam isn't scruffy, Islam is beautiful and sweet, it's a social duty. You know, Islam is perfect. It is perfect. There's nothing wrong with Islam ever. But as Muslims, we're not perfect, and sometimes we give bad example, and sometimes we speak in a silly way about Islam, sometimes talking about things we don't know what we're talking about, or sometimes we're just talking about ourselves and our own opinions. Well, that's not Islam. You know, we need to educate ourselves very gently and slowly. When did you last read a book about Islam? When did you last go on a website and learn something about Islam? When did you last, instead of only reciting Quran, which is a wonderful thing to do, when did you last sit down quietly for 10 minutes in the morning and reflect on the meaning of those verses? You know, our lives will be transformed. Islam is a gift for our lives. Islam puts a spring in our step and makes us walk tall. But you know, you've got to make use of all the gifts we're being given. We're having like this rain that soaks us when we go out. Islam should soak our lives. We should be soaked in Islam. And the fruits of that soaking, people will look at us and they'll say, I wish I was like that. I really wish I was like that woman or like that man. They're cheerful, they're confident, they're happy, nothing seems to get them down. You know, they trust in Allah, they fear Allah, they're kind to people, they're honest, they're men and women of prayer. That's how we tell people about Islam. And then as well, there are little tricks we can do, like I was saying this morning. You know, you have many faith communities here. And we're good at talking. As Muslims, we talk a lot. But we have a bit of difficulty putting our talk into action. You know, in Ramadan, maybe you do it, I don't know. In Ramadan, invite some of these faith communities to an iftar with you. Thunderbolts won't come from the sky. All you're asking them to do is eat food. You're not going to pray with them or worship something that isn't Allah. Invite them to come and join us for Ramadan. Don't talk to them about Islam. Ask them what football team they support. You know, ask them about their wife and kids. And at the end of it, say salam, goodbye. That's it. those people would learn more about Islam than a lifetime of talks by your action. You know, there are so many things you can do. Simple little, but they're all to do with respecting people. If you respect people, people will respect you. But if people see you have no respect for them, why would they bother showing you respect? You don't deserve it anyway. If you don't respect other people, why would you expect them to be nice to you? You know, as I said this morning, if it's someone else's feast day of another religion, you don't have to do anything that would compromise your beliefs, but you could say to your neighbours, I hope you enjoy your feast day. There's nothing compromising in our faith about that. It just means as human beings, we hope you enjoy your day. You'll have a nice party with your wife and your kids. You know, but your friends will respect you so much. You know, and when you've gone beyond walking on eggshells, and you get to know each other a little better, then you can talk about what you believe and say, look, well, actually, I think what you believe is nonsense. But still, we can be friends, can't we? Let's be friends. So it's all to do with faith. Life has taught me that you can say anything to anyone as long as you say it in a nice way. I've spoken to Christian audiences about Jesus, peace be upon him, with the Bishop of Edinburgh, the Anglican Bishop of Edinburgh, about the role of Jesus, and I've said to the bishop, what you believe is wrong. Jesus did not die on the cross, according to the Holy Quran, and at the end we've been able to embrace and go and eat together. But you can only do that when you've earned the respect of the people you're talking to. Otherwise, they'll just see it as you criticizing them. And no one wants to be criticized. We don't. You know, people start criticizing Islam, we immediately go, oh, no, it's not. You understand? So you've got to be very gentle when you're dealing with people's faith, because it's the most important thing in their lives. So be very careful before you point fingers. Look, I just pointed my finger at you. I'm pointing one finger, and 3 fingers are pointing back at me. You know, none of us is appointed a judge over anyone else. None of us. Not one person in this room. And none of us have been given tickets to heaven or hell to hand out. Allah Almighty is the judge. He will decide the future of each one, including me and you know. So let's not get on our high horse and pretend we know about anyone's future, because we don't. And it could be that someone's goodness, you know, makes them a better person than we'll ever be. That what they believe in won't take them to heaven. But maybe through Allah's goodness, their good deeds will. So we don't know. So in terms of dawah, respect, affection, lots of laughter, lots of love. Islam is wonderfully, it's full of fun. Lots of our young people haven't discovered that, because as adults, we make it seem very miserable. You know, that it kills any fun you could possibly have. If you're 19, you know, you want to have fun in life. You don't want a religion that just tells you everything that's fun is haram. But what you need to do is explain to our young people why things are not allowed. Don't just because I said so. That doesn't work anymore. It worked when we were kids. It worked 30 years ago when your dad said, why? Because I said so. It doesn't work anymore. Or maybe in Sri Lanka it does. I don't know, in the West it doesn't. Young people don't listen to that, because our young people are seeing things on the computers that we don't even know anything about. Life has changed. You know, they're seeing stuff that we don't even know about. They know more than we do about anything, and just saying, because I said so, it doesn't work anymore. We need to explain to our kids, explain to them why we're doing things. You know, and final thought, if we want to be a good Muslim community, you know, I just put the question to you, when did you last tell your kids that you love them? When did you last say you loved them? If anything happened to them tomorrow, you'd be broken-hearted. If they were taken from you, you'd be broken-hearted. You would cry your eyes out. Well, you know, at funerals, we say nice things about people when they're dead. Never mind when they're dead. Tell it to them when they're alive. Tell it to your Muslim brothers and sisters. Support one another. As Muslims, we should support one another. You know, no good say, oh, he was a good man when he's in his coffin. What good is that? Tell him he's a good man to his face. support one another. There's a lot. I get emails all the time, and sometimes I might have had 6 horrible emails from people, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere I get a lovely little email from someone saying, "Thank you so much for the work you're doing. You know, you've helped me in my," and it makes me feel great. It really supports me in my faith. But we're all the same. Mark Twain said I could live on a compliment for 6 months. Makes me feel good. So we're brothers and sisters to one another. So let's make that a reality and support one another. Maybe I should stay in Sri Lanka, I don't know. There's lots of things I want to say. I've really enjoyed being these 2 days with you. Tomorrow I'm going to see the British High Commissioner, and on your behalf I will greet him and say I bring with me the greetings of Muslims. We're not fools. We're not going to be talked down to. We don't want anything from you. We're not looking for handouts. You know? I'm not a politician, but your country in recent years has stood up to foreign interference and said we don't want any interference from foreigners anymore. You know, as Muslims we can say to the British Ambassador, we're delighted to be your friend on equal terms. You know? So thank you for honouring me. Thank you for coming to the talk. The rain has stopped. Inshallah, I'll hear more from you on Facebook and on the website, and go home very safely, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
I call upon Brother Idrees to move the
To echo the sentiments of the audience here is not a very difficult task, I'm sure. Sitting at the back and listening to what has truly been a very detailed, descriptive, informative, inspiring talk from our guest, Brother Idrees Tawfiq. It has been an absolute treat, alhamdulillah. Your insights about what you had thought about Muslims before you accepted Islam echoes in many ways what many non-Muslims of today may still be having about Islam. I'm sure through your talk you have helped clear many a misconception about Islam, alhamdulillah. We also recognize and appreciate the effort that you put into your talk by introducing a little bit of humor, which actually in reality spiced up your presentation and certainly livened up the audience. Your experience with the Pope stands out. Your encounters with the mysterious students of the Egyptian schools also stands out. We are confident, dearest brother, that your visit and talks on this lecture tour would have cleared at least some doubts which our brothers and sisters in humanity may have about Islam, and I'm referring to misconceptions. To us Muslims, you have only given us more reason to strive, particularly in the area of perfecting our character. We in Sri Lanka are also elated to know during the course of your talk that you have met and interacted with Brother Yusuf Islam, formerly Cat Stevens, who incidentally is not a stranger to many of us. In fact, Brother Yusuf Islam did visit Sri Lanka way back in February 1985. Your concern about the Palestinian people is something that has certainly entered our hearts. We do and very much appreciate the fact that we are one ummah. And whether it's Palestine or for that matter, any other place, wherever injustice is done, our hearts go out to those who are actually at the receiving end. The story of the boy in Cairo who greeted you with salams is truly amazing. What it really teaches us is that we as Muslims need to interact. How could we get the message across if we close the doors and we do not interact with our brothers and sisters in humanity? One greeting of salam triggered and certain your acceptance of Islam. Alhamdulillah. On behalf of the Center for Islamic Studies, Brother Idrees Tawfiq, your presence with us on a very short tour and the information that you shared with us is appreciated by us all. We certainly look forward and hope and pray that this would not be your first and last lecture in Sri Lanka. We extend an invitation to you and also assure you that the doors of Sri Lanka are open to you all the time. With that, we shall conclude by saying Subhanallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallallahu ala Muhammad ya Rabbi salli alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having attended and given us at the CIS all your support. Assalamu alaikum.
يا مصطفى يا إمام